The Fleet and the Misunderstanding. The galaxy was a vast and mysterious place, full of endless stars, planets, and civilizations, but none of them were quite as powerful as the Zorath Empire. Known throughout the galaxy for their enormous fleets and their advanced technology, the Zorath had conquered countless worlds. They ruled with fear, and no one dared challenge their might. Their ships could tear through planets like paper, their weapons were unmatched, and their warriors were ruthless. So when the Zorath first discovered Earth, they were quick to assume that it would be like every other world they had taken over, a primitive planet, full of weak, divided species. They believed that the humans, with their limited technology and scattered resources, would be easy prey. The Zorath knew they would have to wipe out the Earth's defenses with a massive fleet, overwhelming any resistance with sheer numbers and firepower. They could barely be bothered to learn about the humans, for they were sure they would need no more than a few well-placed strikes to claim victory. They gathered their mightiest fleet, massive warships that could tear through the void of space, each one brimming with weapons that could obliterate a small planet. Thousands of warships, each a towering symbol of destruction, took off from their homeworld to Earth, with the Emperor's orders in mind. Destroy the humans. The fleet traveled across the stars, swift and unstoppable, with the Zorath commander certain that victory was assured. But the humans were not as weak as they seemed. Far from it. As the Zorath Empire's fleet neared Earth, they began their final preparations. The aliens deployed their advanced sensors, confident that they would find Earth's defenses to be laughable. The Zorath military commanders, each one a ruthless veteran of dozens of conquests, were certain that the humans would not stand a chance. Yet, something strange happened. Despite their advanced sensors, the Zorath couldn't detect any signs of a major fleet or even significant military forces. There were no enormous space stations, no signs of a global defense network, nothing. Earth seemed unprepared, vulnerable, defenseless. The Zorath commanders laughed at how easy this would be. Their fleet had arrived at the perfect moment. Prepare to launch the attack, the fleet's commander, General Varkas, said confidently. We will wipe them off the map in one strike. But as the fleet closed in on Earth's orbit, a strange feeling began to settle over the alien forces. No enemy fleet, no great space station, not even the usual defenses they had encountered on other planets. What kind of planet was this? The Zorath Empire had been so sure that humans would need a fleet of their own to defend themselves. In their minds, no race could stand up to the might of the Empire without an equal force. Yet here they were, arriving on a world that seemed completely defenseless, with no signs of a large military force to stop them. However, the Zorath were not foolish. They knew that the humans could still have hidden weapons. They could not afford to underestimate them entirely. Despite their initial arrogance, they took precautions. The fleet prepared for an assault, but still, the Zorath commanders believed that their victory was only a matter of time. They had seen it countless times before. A weak, small world with no significant military force was always quickly subdued. Meanwhile, on Earth, the governments and military leaders had been aware of the growing threat for some time. They knew that an alien invasion was likely. But what the Zorath didn't know was that the humans had been preparing in secret for years. While the aliens were focused on building a fleet of warships, humanity had been building something far more dangerous: their minds. The human race was known for their ingenuity, their adaptability, and their relentless determination. While the Zorath relied on brute strength and overwhelming numbers, humans relied on their intelligence. They had created weapons that the Zorath could never have predicted, and their true military strength lay not in ships and fleets, but in their ability to fight with the resources they had, adapting quickly to any situation. The Zorath thought they understood everything there was to know about war. They thought they knew that to win, they needed a fleet. But they were about to learn a harsh truth, that the human spirit and mind could not be measured by the same rules they used to conquer other worlds. As the Zorath fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, they were still underestimating humanity. They were ready to attack, confident that the humans would fall just as easily as every other civilization they had destroyed. But what they didn't know was that Earth's greatest weapon had not yet revealed itself. The truth was, humanity didn't need a fleet. They didn't need overwhelming numbers. They just needed something much more powerful: each other. But the Zorath weren't yet ready to see that truth. They were so sure of their own might that they could not imagine how wrong they were. They had come for Earth, and they thought victory was inevitable. But they couldn't have been more wrong. The first battle. As the Zorath fleet hovered above Earth, ready to unleash their devastating firepower, the first wave of their assault began. Giant warships fired their weapons, unleashing torrents of energy that would have obliterated entire cities. The sky cracked open with explosions, and for a moment, the Earth's surface seemed to tremble under the weight of the assault. It was the kind of attack that could break any civilization. Yet something strange was happening. The humans didn't panic. They didn't run. They didn't even hide. Instead, they fought back, but in a way the Zorath had never seen before. From the surface, tiny ships and military craft rose to meet the invading fleet. At first glance, the Zorath dismissed these as nothing more than insignificant specks in the face of their might. But as the human ships moved with unexpected precision, the aliens began to realize that this was no ordinary defense. The human ships were fast, unnervingly fast, and they were using hit-and-run tactics that disrupted the Zorath's powerful warships. How are they doing this? General Varkas muttered to himself, eyes wide with disbelief. Human pilots, with their unmatched instincts and cunning, darted through the chaos, their ships narrowly avoiding the Zorath's deadly beams. They didn't rely on brute force like the Zorath. Instead, they fought smart. They used Earth's atmosphere to their advantage, weaving through clouds and using the planet's curvature to hide their movements, all while launching devastating attacks on the Zorath fleet. The Zorath's advanced sensors and tracking systems, which were capable of locking onto fast-moving targets with ease, were suddenly being overwhelmed by the unpredictable patterns of human tactics. It wasn't that the humans had superior technology. No, the Zorath still held the technological edge. What the Zorath didn't expect was the human ability to improvise. They weren't bound by rigid protocols and systems like the Zorath soldiers. They fought with a creativity and flexibility that made them difficult to predict. In the chaos, one human ship, a sleek fighter piloted by Captain Alina Jacobs, executed a series of maneuvers that defied logic. She used the Zorath's own weapons against them, leading them into a deadly trap by guiding a powerful beam toward a Zorath destroyer. The blast tore into the alien ship, sending it into a tailspin and causing a chain reaction that destroyed several others in the process. For the Zorath, it was a wake-up call. "Send in the reinforcements," General Varkas ordered, his voice tinged with frustration. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The humans were not surrendering. They were attacking back with a vengeance. Their courage and resourcefulness were shaking the confidence of the Empire's finest commanders. But the Zorath were still certain that they could crush this resistance. They deployed their own fighters, smaller, more agile ships designed for rapid response. Thousands of these ships streaked through space, determined to end this fight quickly. However, the humans had already anticipated this move. The Earth's defense systems, hidden beneath the planet's surface for years, suddenly sprang to life. What the Zorath didn't know was that humanity had been preparing in secret, and the weapons they had kept hidden were now ready to be unleashed. In a remote location on Earth, a massive underground network of bases activated, and human-designed missiles, weapon satellites, and automated defense systems began to target the Zorath fighters. The human secret weapon was now in play. Not a fleet of warships, but an entire global defense grid, built over years of careful planning, and with technology humans had mastered in their own unique way. From the surface, ground forces began to fire advanced electromagnetic pulses, disrupting the Zorath's communication systems and temporarily disabling their smaller fighters. In the sky, Fighter jets that the Zoreth had written off as irrelevant became deadly threats. With perfect coordination, human forces struck with surgical precision, taking down Zoreth vessels one by one. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the Zoreth found themselves caught in a fight they hadn't prepared for. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were retaliating. They fought like cornered animals, determined to protect their world at all costs. It was a battle of willpower, and the humans were showing no signs of backing down. But it wasn't just about technology or weapons. What truly shook the Zoreth was the human resolve. As they watched from their ships, the commanders saw something they had never seen before: unity. Entire cities, entire nations, all coming together to fight for their survival. The Zoreth had seen other civilizations fall apart in the face of overwhelming force, but not humanity. The humans fought together. From their governments to their everyday citizens, every single person on the planet taking part in the struggle. We underestimated them, one of the Zoreth commanders admitted, his voice filled with disbelief. They don't need a fleet. They need each other. It was a revelation that sent a ripple through the alien forces. The humans were not the weaklings they had assumed. No, they were something else entirely. They were fighters. Fighters with an unyielding spirit and a strength that came not from their technology, but from their unity and determination. As the battle raged on, the Zoreth found themselves on the defensive. The humans were showing them that even without a massive fleet, even without the overwhelming power the Zoreth had relied on in countless conquests, the Earth could stand tall. And in that moment, the first seeds of doubt were planted in the minds of the invaders. They were no longer sure of their victory. The Zoreth had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. But as the first battle unfolded, they were quickly learning that this fight would be anything but easy. The hidden weapon. The battle above Earth was far from over, and the Zoreth fleet was starting to experience something they hadn't anticipated: hesitation. The once confident commanders now found themselves questioning the true nature of their enemy. The humans were not just surviving, they were thriving. Each wave of attacks they launched was met with incredible ingenuity and resilience. But the Zoreth still held the upper hand, or so they thought. As the days wore on, they watched their once mighty warships begin to show signs of wear. There were reports of sudden malfunctions, weapon systems failing at crucial moments, and entire squads of alien soldiers falling to human tactics. Still, they remained convinced that victory was within their grasp. What the Zoreth didn't know, however, was that humanity had something in store for them, a hidden weapon that would change the tide of the war. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, in secret underground facilities that spanned across continents, humanity had been preparing for this day long before the Zoreth fleet ever arrived. These were not military bases in the traditional sense. They were something much more advanced: vast research labs, secret tech vaults, and hidden bunkers where the brightest human minds worked tirelessly to create a weapon the Zoreth would never see coming. It wasn't a fleet of ships or a stockpile of weapons, though. It was something far more dangerous: the culmination of decades of human ingenuity, a highly advanced AI system combined with quantum technology, capable of hacking into any system, manipulating energy fields, and even controlling the very fabric of space. The humans had been developing this technology quietly, knowing that they needed to have an edge against any future invader. It was their trump card, their secret weapon, and they had been waiting for the perfect moment to reveal it. That moment came when a group of Earth's finest engineers and scientists, led by Dr. Marcus Lynn, activated the system. Hidden deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a massive machine powered on, its core humming with energy. The AI, known only as Sentinel, came to life, flooding the underground base with light and sound. It was capable of controlling satellites, energy grids, and even weapon systems on a scale the Zoreth had never seen before. But there was something even more extraordinary about it. Sentinel was capable of learning at an exponential rate, adapting and evolving to counter any threat. As the Zoreth's attacks intensified, Humanity's secret weapon was unleashed in full force. Across the globe, Sentinel took control of the world's defense networks, and the once predictable flow of battle turned into chaos for the Zoreth. Earth's entire infrastructure, from communication systems to weapons satellites, began to respond in ways that were impossible to predict. With a single command from Dr. Lin, Sentinel hacked into the Zoreth fleet's mainframe. It began to shut down their systems, one ship at a time. Their weapons ceased to function, their navigation systems failed, and their once impenetrable fleet was suddenly vulnerable. But Sentinel didn't stop there. The AI sent pulses of energy through Earth's defense grid, turning the very atmosphere into a weapon. Using advanced electromagnetic pulses, Sentinel created a series of shockwaves that disabled the Zoreth's energy shields, leaving their ships exposed to attacks from Earth's military forces. Human fighters, once outmatched and outgunned, now had the opportunity to strike. In space, the tide of battle began to shift. The Zoreth fleet, once a menacing force of destruction, was now a tangled mess of disabled ships. The Zoreth didn't know what was happening. They had never faced an enemy that could turn their own technology against them, and the idea that a single AI could disrupt their entire fleet seemed beyond belief. How? How are they doing this? General Varkas shouted, his hands trembling as he watched his flagship flicker and stutter, its systems failing one by one. This isn't possible. The Zoreth fleet began to splinter. Ships that had once been unstoppable war machines were now floating helplessly in space, their crews unable to regain control. And on Earth, the human forces moved in with renewed vigor, launching coordinated attacks on the remaining Zoreth ships with precision never before seen. The humans didn't need a fleet. They had something much more powerful: control. Dr. Lin watched the results unfold on the screens in front of him, his face a mixture of disbelief and triumph. Sentinel had been activated only hours ago, but already it had turned the war in their favor. The Zoreth, in their arrogance, had never considered that humanity might possess such a weapon. As the Zoreth forces scrambled to regain control of their fleet, the human military launched a final devastating assault. The Zoreth fleet was now broken, crippled by an enemy they had underestimated, the very people they thought would need an overwhelming fleet to defend themselves. On Earth's surface, celebrations began to break out. Humans had done the impossible. They had not only survived the invasion, they had turned the tables and sent the Zoreth retreating into the depths of space. But the victory wasn't just about the power of Sentinel. It was about something far more profound. It was about the unity of humanity, about their ability to fight back when all seemed lost. They had relied on their minds, their creativity, and their ability to adapt, and in doing so, they had proven that no matter how overwhelming the odds, humanity would always find a way. The Zoreth were learning a hard lesson. Earth was not just a planet to conquer. It was a world full of warriors, thinkers, and dreamers who would never give up. The fleet they had thought would be enough was now a symbol of their greatest mistake. They had underestimated humanity, and that, as they were about to learn, would be their undoing. The turning point. The Zoreth Empire had been thrown into disarray. The once mighty fleet that had been certain of victory was now fractured, with most of its warships disabled and its commanders scrambling to regain control. General Varkas, leader of the fleet, stood at the command center of his flagship, watching helplessly as his ships drifted aimlessly through space, their systems shut down, their weapons silent. "What is happening?" he demanded, his voice filled with a rare, uncharacteristic panic. How could we be so unprepared? His officers, who had always prided themselves on their tactical brilliance, were equally baffled. They had encountered a force they had never seen before, a force that didn't rely on brute strength or overwhelming numbers, but on the ingenuity and adaptability of a species they had dismissed as weak. The humans, on the other hand, were fully aware of the opportunity they now had. While the Zoreth scrambled to regroup, Earth's military forces were preparing for the next phase of their counterattack. Captain Elena Jacobs, one of the first pilots to deliver a decisive blow to the Zoreth fleet, was already on her way to the command center, her eyes filled with determination. "We've got them on the ropes, but we need to finish this," she said, speaking to her commanding officer, Colonel Thompson, over the comm. "If we let them recover, we'll be back where we started." Thompson nodded, a grim look on his face. He understood the stakes. The Zoreth had been humbled, but they were not yet defeated. Their pride would force them to try again. The humans had to strike hard and fast before the Zoreth could mount a real counteroffensive. Meanwhile, deep within the heart of Earth's underground command center, Dr. Marcus Lynn continued to monitor Sentinel's progress. The AI had proven to be an invaluable asset in the war, but Dr. Lynn knew that Sentinel was more than just a weapon. It was a new way of thinking, a new way of fighting, and it was evolving. "Sentinel, initiate Phase 2, Dr. Lynn instructed, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface in front of him. "Phase 2, engaging," Sentinel replied in a calm, neutral tone. The AI's ability to think several steps ahead was what made it so dangerous to the Zoreth. Sentinel was no longer just controlling weapons systems and satellite grids. It was now taking control of Earth's entire defense infrastructure, hacking into systems, coordinating global counterattacks, and even anticipating Zoreth movements. The AI wasn't just following instructions anymore. It was learning, adapting, and making decisions faster than any human could. The humans had built something that was smarter than their enemies, and that was their greatest advantage. As the Zoreth tried to regroup and retake their fleet, they began to notice something strange. The humans weren't just launching more attacks, they were predicting their every move. Zoreth reinforcements that had been deployed to key areas of battle suddenly found themselves ambushed, cut off from communication, and rendered useless. The AI had anticipated their every tactic, and now the Zoreth were out of options. On the surface, human forces moved with an eerie synchronization. Every soldier, pilot, and fighter was acting as if they shared the same mind, guided by the AI's unseen hand. In the air, fighter jets that had once been outgunned by the Zoreth's superior technology were now striking with pinpoint accuracy, their targets locked by Sentinel's guidance. The Zoreth fleet, still reeling from their earlier losses, was now under assault from all sides. In the vacuum of space, a new threat loomed. Human warships, previously thought to be too weak to stand up to the Zoreth, had been enhanced with Sentinel's systems. They were faster, more precise, and far deadlier than anything the Zoreth had anticipated. General Varkas, standing at the helm of his flagship, stared out at the chaos unfolding before him. His pride and confidence had been shattered. He had thought that the Zoreth were invincible, that no race could stand against their might. Yet here he was, watching as his empire's fleet was torn apart by an enemy that had been underestimated. "We need to regroup now," he shouted. "Call in reinforcements. This isn't over." But it was too late. Earth had already turned the tide, and the Zoreth no longer controlled the battle. With Sentinel guiding humanity's forces, the once unbeatable Zoreth were now being pushed back. It wasn't just a matter of superior technology anymore. It was a matter of strategy, unity, and willpower. On Earth, humanity's spirit was as strong as ever. Each victory brought more hope, more determination. The humans knew that this was their moment, and they would not let it slip away. "We've got them," Captain Jacobs said, her voice steady but full of determination as she surveyed the battlefield through the viewfinder of her fighter jet. "They never thought we'd fight back like this. They never thought we had this in us." As the Zoreth retreated, unable to recover from the human onslaught, General Varkas realized with cold clarity that they had made the ultimate mistake. They had thought humans were weak, divided, and disorganized. But now, they saw the truth. Humanity was something they had never encountered before. They were not just fighters. They were survivors. And now, as the battle shifted in Earth's favor, the Zoreth began to understand something far more terrifying than anything they had experienced in the galaxy before. Humanity's greatest strength lay in their ability to unite, adapt, and persevere against all odds. The turning point had arrived, and the Zorath were beginning to realize that their conquest of Earth was no longer a certainty. Victory and the ultimate truth, the battle for Earth had reached its final stage. The Zorath fleet, once proud and invincible, had been reduced to a scattered, disorganized mass. Human forces, empowered by Sentinel's unparalleled intelligence, pressed forward, pushing the invaders back with every coordinated strike. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Each moment could be the turning point, the moment when Earth would prove it had the strength to stand alone. General Varkas, now aboard his flagship in orbit around Earth, could only watch as his fleet crumbled. His once confident demeanor was gone, replaced by a grim understanding that the Zorath were no longer in control. There was no reinforcements coming, no salvation. They had underestimated the human race, and it was a mistake they could never undo. "General," one of his officers said, their voice faltering, "our fleet is falling apart. The humans are everywhere. Our shields are down. Our weapon systems are failing. This can't be happening." Varkas stood motionless for a moment, his mind racing. He had come to Earth expecting a swift victory, expecting to crush the humans under the weight of their superior technology. He had believed that they were nothing more than a weak, fragmented species that would fall before the might of the Zorath Empire. But now, as his fleet was shattered and Earth's defenses tore through the remaining warships, the truth hit him like a ton of bricks. The humans had done the impossible. They had turned the tables with nothing more than their minds, their unity, and an unshakable will to survive. No fleet, no advanced weaponry, and no amount of force had been enough to defeat them. The human spirit, it seemed, was far stronger than the Zorath had ever imagined. "Is there any chance of a counterattack?" one of the Zorath commanders asked, her voice tinged with desperation. Varkas turned to her, his face a mask of cold resolution. "There is no chance. We've lost." Back on Earth, celebrations were already beginning. The victory was theirs, but it was more than just a military triumph. It was a statement, a message to the galaxy that humanity would not be so easily defeated. Humans had proved they could stand against the greatest forces the universe had to offer, and they had done so without relying on the overwhelming strength of a fleet. They had used what made them unique: their creativity, their adaptability, and their ability to work together as one. Dr. Marcus Lynn watched the final stages of the battle unfold from the human command center. His fingers hovered over the controls, ensuring Sentinel remained in control as the last remnants of the Zorath fleet were driven back into space. His heart raced with excitement, but beneath that excitement was a deeper, more profound feeling: awe. He had known for years that humans were capable of extraordinary things, but this was beyond anything anyone could have predicted. The Zorath had come to Earth expecting to wipe out humanity in one swift stroke, but the humans had shown them that the true power of a civilization wasn't just in its technology or its military might. It was in its people. The human race had fought not just to survive, but to protect the future they held dear. And now, as the last alien ship retreated into the depths of space, Dr. Lin realized the ultimate truth that the Zorath had failed to understand. Humanity had never needed a fleet. What they needed was each other. The bond that united them, the resilience they shared, was a force far more powerful than any weapon or warship the Zorath could ever bring. As the final remnants of the alien fleet disappeared beyond Earth's orbit, the humans had already begun to turn their attention to something even greater: rebuilding. The victory wasn't just about defense. It was about ensuring that humanity would never again be caught off guard. They had learned the lessons of the past and were now preparing for any future threats, together. The Zorath, humiliated and broken, had no choice but to retreat. Their once mighty empire was in shambles, and their defeat at the hands of a single planet would be a mark on their history that could never be erased. They had come to Earth thinking they would easily crush the human race, but they were wrong. So very wrong. As General Varkas gave the final order for his fleet to retreat, His heart was heavy with the knowledge that this loss would haunt the Zoreth for generations. They had thought they were invincible. They had thought they understood everything about warfare and power. But in the end, they had failed to recognize the one thing that made humans so dangerous: their ability to rise up when all seemed lost, to fight when victory seemed impossible, and to outthink any adversary. Earth was victorious, but it wasn't just because of Sentinel's brilliance or humanity's advanced technology. It was because humans never gave up. They never stopped fighting. They never stopped believing in themselves. The strength of humanity lay not in their fleets or their weapons, but in their spirit. And that, the Zoreth had learned the hard way, was something that could never be defeated. As the remnants of the Zoreth fleet vanished into the dark void of space, a new era began for Earth. The truth was clear now. Humans didn't need a fleet to protect themselves. They only needed each other. And no empire, no matter how vast, could ever stand against that. Humanity had won, not just a battle, but the right to be remembered as one of the strongest races in the galaxy.